And we're back for another week of the Let's Talk About It podcast. I am Ruben,
I am Pedro.
And I'm Jason.
and he's awake.
Hey, welcome.
Maybe.
We are in
We'll see if it persists throughout the rest of the episode.
episode 29. Let's get it, boys. I know we got a ton of news to get into. I don't know who would like to go first.
We mixed it up last episode, so that maybe that's a little too much spice if we mix it up for two episodes in a row. So I can go with the tech news this week first. All right. So first item last week was a confirmed where a leaker confirmed that August 3rd was going to be the release date for the Pixel 4a, and just today on the 30th of July we have confirmation on the Google website itself through the Google Shop that August 3rd is going to be the release date of the Pixel 4a, most likely. And I say most likely because you go to the Google Shop and it says the Google just what you've been waiting for phone, which falls right into line with the heavy leaks that we have been receiving for months on end about the Google Pixel 4a. So that's exciting. That's exciting. I'm gonna see if I can watch the launch event from work. Maybe boss Jack, if you're listening to this, please ignore what I just said. But yeah, so that's going to be interesting. I did make a statement here to Ruben off the podcast that if they announce a special edition color for the phone, like a really blue, or like they did for the first gen Pixel, then I will pre-order it that day. But if they don't, I'll wait for reviews and see how that goes. So really interesting. I've been personally looking forward to it, especially since the announcement of the OnePlus Nord, which is the mid-range OnePlus phone that was announced to not be in the US quite yet. That's all the buzz is around the OnePlus Nord right now, and Google has been taking forever to launch the 4A. So we'll see. We'll see how the market shapes up after this really hotly anticipated release. So I'll keep you guys updated next week as to what I think about it. But moving on from there, some more Google news actually. Google's parent company Alphabet saw its first revenue decline in the company's history, the first time ever. The search revenue dropped by more than $2 billion from last year. So currently the net income dropped to 6.9 billion from 9.9 billion just a year ago. So revenue for search was 21.3 billion dollars, down from 23.6 billion dollars from yesterday. So these are coming from official reports here from Google's parent company, Alphabet. And as far as what they have said on that matter, the CFO, Ruth Porat, said, "We continue to navigate through a difficult global environment." So that's basically them saying that it's because of COVID-19 that they have seen a drop there in their revenue, specifically from the search engine part of Alphabet that's borrowed from Google. So in addition to that, there were, it's not all gloom and doom there for Alphabet. I mean, they're a multi-billion-dollar company, so there's really no sweat to it. But one of the bright spots of their financial reports was YouTube, where advertising revenue rose to $3.81 billion from $3.6 billion last year. So I highly recommend y'all install ad blocker like I do. But anyways, Google's cloud division saw rising revenue as well, to 3.01 billion from 2.1 billion in the year ago quarter. So almost very close to a $1 billion growth there just from Google's cloud division. So that is also equally impressive. The CEO, Sundar Pichai, said on a call that while the economic climate remained fragile due to the coronavirus pandemic, that they saw the early signs of stabilization as users returned to commercial activity online. So yeah, just more people working, I suppose, as the world recovers from coronavirus. Certainly not the U.S. and certainly not Arizona with the numbers that we've been seeing. But specifically with that, he also stated that YouTube and Google Play subscriptions saw good traction, quote unquote, in the quarter, with app and game downloads rising 35% So that's also a big number there. It added some large customers to its cloud segment, including Dutch bank Pachai said. And their cloud platform also benefited from the number of people working from home during the pandemic. So Sundar Pichai said, quote, customers are choosing Google Cloud to either lower their costs by improving operating efficiency or to drive innovation. So me working in IT, I know for the company that we work with, Google accounts are very benevolent, and a lot of people in our company have Google accounts. So I personally have seen that, as well as how Google has expanded their applications through their cloud apps. And might I say, it's also really easy to manage those Google apps from the IT side of the spectrum there. So props to Google for giving us tools that are not as buggy and don't break as easy as Microsoft. So that's also a stab at Microsoft. Anyways, moving on from that story, this is more of a follow-up story there for what we mentioned last week at Intel. What's going on at Intel. So last week we mentioned that Intel has delayed its 7-nanometer processing node for its CPUs another year, into another calendar year. And in the wake of that announcement, we're seeing some leadership shakeups over at Intel. So something fishy is really going rotten over there at Intel. So specifically with that, Murthy Redunchintala, I cannot say that, but anyway, they are this person is Intel's chief engineering officer, and he has left the company. Now, it's not confirmed that it's because of this delay, but considering the timing, especially during the coronavirus pandemic, if the chief engineering officer of Intel leaves, then that cannot be a good sign. So, as far as his track record, Murthy, and that's Murthy, Murthy, not Murphy. Murthy, he joined Intel back in 2016 when the company lured him away from Qualcomm, which are the people who make the SoC processors in most high-end phones nowadays. They brought him on board to Intel for a $8.1 million signing bonus and total compensation package worth up to $25 million. So that's quite the temptation. I would have taken that deal in a heartbeat, mind you. He's been Intel's chief engineering officer for just over 3 years now, and was described as the company's second most powerful executive behind the then CEO, Brian Krzanich. So as far as what that spells for Intel, I mean, this is a pretty high up there executive for Intel. His official leave date is August 3rd, 2020. So the day Google announces their new Pixel 4a is the day that Murthy is going to leave Intel. So that's very interesting. But this is typical of any shift, right? And especially after Intel has been disappointing year after year after year. The rats are going to leave the nest, and then more people are going to take their place. So things are not looking bright for Intel on that front there. So we'll have to wait and see. Just like I said last week, we're going to have to wait and see. One interesting thing I learned in between last week's episode and this week's episode is that the timing for Intel's 7-nanometer delay. As far as the time window that Intel is going to release their new 7-nanometer process, that's the same year that TSMC is going to release, or they're scheduled to release their 3-nanometer node technology there for CPUs. So they're already going to be way behind if TSMC moves forward with their plans and their lithography for the new processors. So really interesting stuff there. Intel's going to lose a lot of ground. Whether they actually do or not, I don't think it's going to matter, just because of what people believe about them now. They're gonna hurt, regardless of how well they do, if that makes sense. But I digress. I am not a fortune teller. Moving on from there, this is actually kind of a silly story. I have a couple of silly stories today, but silly story number one comes from the hotly covered statement here from Valve's Gabe Newell. and he said that he would buy an Xbox Series X over a PS5. And when they asked him why, he basically responded with, "Because it's better," and that's it.
Well,
um,
he's obviously never played Dark Souls.
well, I mean, this comes purely from Gabe's from his
Nope,
paper
nope,
standpoint on
nope.
the Xbox Series X. So,
It
you know,
has
on
it has the Demon Souls remake. That's the only reason anybody needs to buy it.
the Xbox Series X
Oh,
or
not
the
the PS5 is what I'm saying. He
yeah.
obviously doesn't like Dark Souls.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's Gabe Newell, right? So he doesn't really give a shit about either the
Yeah, I
Xbox
know.
or the PlayStation.
See, my theory behind the whole situation is that Valve, is infamous for not being able to count to 3 and on. So since PlayStation 5, he's scared of the
He's
unknown.
extra scared.
Yeah, and you know what? You know what? The Xbox Series X should be within his comfort zone because if we count the alphabet letters backwards from Z, X is the third one. So
Yeah. See, so that's my theory.
yeah. So that's still within the realm of possibility of his mind and what it can calculate. So that makes perfect sense to me. And so we'll see if we'll see once the consoles come out if they ask Gabe Newell's opinion on them again or whether he cares or not. But that's a silly story this week. Moving on from that story, just some more interesting stuff going on at Google. Not necessarily with any of their tech, but more so that Google has officially extended its work from home policy through July 2021. So any individuals that are
Damn.
currently working from home can continue to do so until July 2021, which is a year from now. The decision will affect approximately 200,000 individuals within the Google workforce. And this is something that they said has been a decision that was made due to the coronavirus pandemic and how it's intensified here in the U.S. After after a little mishap of trying to reopen slightly, and then us getting bombarded with cases again. So, Google has officially said that to give employees the ability to plan ahead, we are extending our global voluntary work from home option through June 30th, 2021 for roles that don't need to be in the office, which for Google, a company like that, is a lot of people, at least 200,000, right? So, I think that's really smart. I think that's really good. I think that there's lots of pros and cons from working from home, right? But for a company like Google, I think there's lots of, or really just for any tech company in general, I think there's a huge value in allowing people to work from home. Not only because you can have people work from home and they don't have to deal with the stress of showing up to an actual office every day if that floats their goat, so to speak. But that also allows for people. Let's say someone's really good at their job and they want to live in Kentucky instead of Silicon Valley, California. They can do that now, right? So uh, just extends more freedom for people to do and live the lifestyles they want, I guess. So props to Google on that. I think it's a really smart idea. I think it's a really novel idea for us here in the US, right? Working from home, but I think this could possibly be something of the future of allowing more people to work from home. So props on Google to that. Moving on to the next tech story here. We're going to end it on a silly one right after this last serious story. But Qualcomm this last week has announced its new 100-watt charging system. And they claim that they will, with this new Quick Charge 5 tech, that phones will be able to charge from 0 to 50% in 5 minutes. So
Jesus.
that's currently the world's fastest
Sounds like
commercial
fun.
charging solution. So, yeah. So this is now keep in mind these are numbers that Qualcomm has published based on a 4,500 milliamp hour battery with a stacked cell configuration in the battery, which means that there is not just one solid battery cells, but there's actually two battery cells in the phone that allows each of the cells to be charged at 50 watts. So It's more of a 50-watt simultaneous charge, but they just added the 50s together and called that 100-watt charging power. So in this new battery charging architecture, they claim that it's 70% higher and 10 degrees Celsius cooler than Quick Charge 4, which, if you guys can believe it or care at all, that's a charging technology that's the current gen charging technology, right? But it was announced 3 years ago. And it was implemented 3 years ago. So in tech, that's a long time. The new Quick Charge 5 standard will support USB power delivery, so it should be able to charge even larger electronics at full speed, like laptops and monitors, while simultaneously providing data to those machines as well. So theoretically, with some displays, now this is a tech that already exists, right, for some displays to use a USB-C cable to not only transmit power, but to transmit the display data to a monitor. But it only works for certain resolutions with certain technologies at certain refresh rates with certain color standards. So the more powerful this technology becomes, the better our displays are going to be. I'm all for the USB-C all the things just because I think it's an amazing standard. And it's really a universal standard that could really trounce what Apple has been doing with their Lightning connectors for a while. But I digress. Back to Quick Charge 5. The USB power delivery programmable power supply device is what they're going to be calling these new charging standards for the larger devices like monitors. And it should be able to negotiate the correct power and charge on many non-Qualcomm Quick Charge 5 devices at top speed too. So you typically, you need a device that's compatible with the standard, but that may not be the case for everything here with Quick Charge 5, which is great for adoptability. There's also something that we need to notice here is that there's actually nothing limiting this to a USB cable either. So it doesn't even have to be USB-C. It could be, any type of, bus-enabled cable, as long as it meets those particular power requirements for Quick Charge 5. Wireless quick charging is also supported. So wirelessly, you can get that 0 to 50% in 5 minutes, which is gnarly, in my opinion. Now, this is a really good response here because Chinese companies have been going for really gnarly battery technologies for a while now. Like we have Oppo and Xiaomi with their experimental 100-watt charging solution last year that kind of face planted and didn't really go anywhere, so to speak, or not. They didn't really go anywhere reliably, I should say. I mean, it works, but it doesn't work all the time. It's really hard to explain. But the benefit here of Qualcomm with Quick Charge 5 is the adaptability, because they make a lot of the system on a chips for most of the phones in the market right now, which means that they can just stick this into any new processor that they produce for every phone, every major phone in the world, really, and it'll work. It'll just work. So as far as the code names for these Quick Charge 5 modules, they're called the SMB 1396 and the SMB 1398, and they're currently in the sampling phase. So that means we should be seeing these Quick Charge 5 modules in devices in Q3 2020. So by the end of the year, we should start seeing the very first devices here, if anything, a prototype with Quick Charge 5 enabled. So I got one last tech story for you guys. Don't worry. I'm not trying to drown you. But this last one's a good one. So so there has been announced this very special PlayStation 5, and it's made out of 24-karat gold. It's going to be available through a vendor called Truly Exquisite, and it's going to be available in extremely limited numbers. So this PS5 plated in 24-karat gold will be available in December, right in time for the holidays, in case you want to Christmas gift your honey a gold-plated PS5. But as far as the pricing for that, we don't know what it's going to be, at least specifically. Kunal Patel, the founder and CEO of Truly Exquisite, the place where you'll be able to buy this gold-plated PS5 from, he said PS5 is arguably the most anticipated games console to ever be released, and many people have been waiting years for this release. By offering a luxury limited edition PS5 for those individuals that truly want to stand out, will be a popular choice. We've shown some of our most exclusive clients our renderings of the PS5 and have already had customers wanting to order these even without it being released. These will be hugely popular, especially due to them being limited pieces with probably no more than 100 pieces released worldwide. He has specifically said that it's most likely to set you back, quote, at least a few thousand British pounds.
Jesus.
So I don't know the conversion there, but just to do that right now, British pounds to USD, one US dollar is equivalent to 76 sterling pounds. So a couple thousand. If we're gonna say, let's be conservative and say 9,000 British pounds. If the thing was 9,000 British pounds, it would be almost $12,000 US. So, so are you guys gonna get one? I'm gonna try and save up for one.
Yeah.
$1 is 76 pounds. I'm stuck on that.
I already got my pre-order in. What are you talking about?
Cool. Yeah, we'll let people know what we think about it. But with that being said, that is all the tech I am going to bring to the table for y'all today. So one of y'all can take it away.
All right, Jason, would you like to go, or you want me to do it?
I can go in from here. So I'm going to go ahead and just start off with a big meaty one. We had a 6-hour antitrust hearing here recently. And basically what happened was the CEOs of 4 major tech giants were questioned basically over their past practices, over basically acting like a mafia, I guess would be the best way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
So what I have here took place over 6 hours. So basically here it is. Yeah, they become too big and powerful. They were threatening rivals, consumers, and in some cases even democracy itself is what they were saying. Representative David Cicilline, looks like from Indiana. Or no, that's Rhode Island, my mistake. He was quoted saying, "Our founders would not bow before a king, nor should we bow before the emperors of an online economy." And again, referring to the CEOs of Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google. Now, before I get any further into this, what are your guys' thoughts on the whole situation?
Okay, so my opinion on this is that I think it's a little weird that they had the CEOs of the company testify, mainly because, yes, they're really powerful men within the company and they make all the major decisions, but there's also a lot of slimy stuff that happens behind their back that they just don't know about either. So these whole conversations are, kind of they're kind of interesting in that we get a sense of kind of just how evil these people are as leaders of these companies, because they know some things that are happening and they don't know some things that are happening, but when these representatives bring up something that these CEOs know that's happening within the company, you kind of immediately see them seize up in their language as to how they respond to these questions. And I'm sure you're going to go over some of these questions too, Jason. I have an article with some of the some of the spicier questions that were asked and their responses. So you go ahead and go to the ones that you wanted to point out first, and I'll comment on the ones if I have similar feelings on the same quotes.
Okay, so then I did just want to start off with saying basically the way that the CEOs defended their businesses was by basically painting like a rags to riches type success story that was only made possible. 2 of the 3 did?
Yeah. Sundar Pichai talked about how he remembered his first time accessing the internet as a youth in India and how that changed his life. And Jeff Bezos mentioned how when he was born, his mom was still in high school, which doesn't mean much to me personally. But Mark Zuckerberg doesn't have a story like that, so he remains quiet.
Okay. Yeah, so they're just kind of grouping them all together in here. So, I mean, if I have any wrong information, feel free to correct me, of course. So, the lawmakers themselves, though, were basically showing it. They see it differently. basically the advancements from Silicon Valley in commerce, consumer electronics, communication, just the vast array of online services, they've come at this immense cost to the people as well who use the tools and the companies. And that's the hell, this is worded really weirdly. Like I'm rereading my notes now. Let me just read this word for word. Maybe I mix it up. So, but lawmakers repeatedly presented a different vision at their hearing, one in which Silicon Valley's myriad advancements in commerce, consumer electronics, communication, and vast array of online services had come at an immense cost to the people who use those tools and the companies that seek to compete against the tech giants. Okay, no, so I just got the idea jumbled in my head. Essentially what it's saying is it's come at a cost to smaller businesses and smaller individuals who are trying to run their own thing. They're getting lost in the competition. They basically don't have a chance to compete.
Yeah, they cannot compete. Imagine trying to open your own online advertising platform and search engine, and then realizing that you have to compete against Google. You're gonna lose.
So moving on from that a little bit, though, it looks like here's Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg was questioned more on his past emails. For example, Representative Gerald Nadler, the top lawmaker in the House Judiciary Committee, brought up a 2012 message in which Zuckerberg had sought to acquire Instagram, which at the time was a rival photo sharing app, out of fear that it could, quote, meaningfully hurt us. Later, Representative Joe Neguse pointed out that other Facebook communications that described the company's acquisition strategy generally as a land grab. So, again, just kind of bringing off these not again, I guess, but bringing out these practices of just kind of like buying out your competition just so that they don't have the chance to compete. It's essentially, I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse. Like it's a bad gangster movie.
Yeah, it's they're digital mafia mobs, essentially. Now, there's nothing wrong with buying out your competition if that means it's for the betterment of if it's in direct betterment of the company. That's how basic economics works, right? That's how local economics with local businesses work. But in this case, the mentality behind those acquisitions is what's evil. That's strictly and very, very blatant antitrust and anti-competitive.
Mm-hmm. So mergers and acquisitions that violate competitive threats. Mergers and acquisitions that buy off potential competitive threats violate the antitrust laws, Nadler charged, and then followed with, in your own words, you purchased Instagram to neutralize a competitive threat. And Zuckerberg replied with, we compete hard, we compete fairly, and we try to be the best.
That sounds like a deflection to me.
Yeah, he's not saying we didn't do it.
Yeah, he said we compete very hard. Yes, you compete very hard so you can buy out your competition. Then you don't have to compete as hard anymore. I don't like that.
So Amazon, meanwhile, was facing scrutiny over allegations that it might have misled the committee. The e-commerce giant previously told lawmakers that it does not tap data from third-party sellers to boost sales of its own products. But Democratic Representative Pramila Jayapal brought up public reports that indicated the contrary, prompting Bezos delivering his first ever testimony to Congress to offer striking admission of potential fault. It says, what I can tell you is we have a policy against using seller-specific data to aid our private label business, but I can't guarantee that policy has never been violated. So essentially saying, like they said, that's I wouldn't say it's deflection, but it's not necessarily admitting fault, but it's like, I'm not stupid either. I know you're not stupid. I feel like it's that kind of reply.
Right. And that's what I was saying here as a preface to the story, right? That, these CEOs, they know of some things that going on, but they don't know everything that goes on. And that's precisely exactly what Bezos is hiding behind here.
Right.
Company policy is violated all the time in any company that lays out their own rules in the particular company setting, right? So that's just the reality of that's the reality of humans. We break rules. We're given a set of rules and we break them somehow, right? So that's exactly what's going on here with Jeff Bezos. And I think that particularly the questioning that was presented to Bezos here during this hearing, was really, really interesting. For example, there was a round of questioning where there were statements that third-party sellers had told Congress heartbreaking stories about having their products systematically poached by Amazon, with one source comparing the relationship with Amazon to that of a heroin dealer, and that they couldn't live without Amazon.
Jeez.
And
Jesus.
when Representative Cicilline asked Mr. Bezos, this is one of your partners? Why on earth would they compare your company to a drug dealer? Bezos responded with, "Sir, I have great respect for you as a committee, but I completely disagree with that characterization." To which Representative Cicilline replied with, "Isn't it an inherent conflict of interest for Amazon to produce and sell products that compete directly with third-party sellers, particularly when you, Amazon, set the rules of the game?" And Bezos responded with, "The consumer is the one making the decisions," and they left it at that. What a bunch of horseshit!
Right.
By that same logic, the heroin dealer says, "Well, I'm not the one forcing it into you."
Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly. Damn it, Jason.
So it's crazy how I guess dirty would be the best way to put corrupt and dirty the whole scene is, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Mm-hmm.
So not only that is like it showed that Congress was able to be bipartisan on a lot of the frustrations that they have with Silicon Valley. For example, the way that they put privacy at risk, policies, content online, and the way they hurt policies, their online content, and the way that they hurt competitors, including small businesses. So, like we were saying earlier, just essentially not even giving them a chance to compete. It's just I'm curious to see how much further this is going to go, because for Congress to come together for Congress to come so together and be in such agreement on something, and it is something that could have huge consequences and huge implications for everybody's future, because even me, I don't use it all the time, but Amazon is definitely a part of my life. I go shopping there. I do now and then, and I can see myself using it more. But I definitely know there's people out there that use it a lot more than I do. And there's just on that end, though, YouTube is one of the things that I use all the time. They have all of my information, and YouTube is owned by Google in the end. It all comes back to the same, I guess, essentially this elite. That's that idea that used to be there, this corrupt elite. That's who these people are turning into.
Yep. And the platforms they have are just becoming more authoritative and inescapable, I guess. On that same note here, there's one thing that I want to point out here from the antitrust hearing, specifically about Amazon as well. I know we haven't been giving lots of Facebook attention here, but I think the Amazon portions and the questioning of Jeff Bezos is particularly interesting, just because of his language and how he responds to these questions. But basically the one that I'm looking at here is specifically with Amazon Alexa. So in response to a question about smart home products, Bezos told Representative Raskin that the Echo was not priced below cost unless it was specifically on sale. Raskin also asked whether Amazon saw the smart home space as a winner-take-all market for it. Bezos responded with "I would say no, especially if we're able to succeed in what we want. Our vision for this is that smart home speakers should answer to different wake words on a case-by-case basis. And if we could achieve that, I think you would get really good behavior on the part of the competitive voice agents helping you." But he said Amazon devices might still promote Amazon goods. He also added, "It wouldn't surprise me if Alexa does sometimes promote our own products." So specifically with those smart home speakers, I'm not a big fan of Amazon Alexa. The functionality's there, but I don't think I'd want one.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that he said it wouldn't surprise me if Alexa does sometimes promote our own products. Shut the F up, Jeff Bezos. You know that Amazon Alexa promotes Amazon products on there. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
through voice assistant. Like, come on, dude. Like, you ain't hiding anything. You know exactly what Alexa's saying. That's all really I have to point out from the antitrust hearing. It's a bunch of BS.
So then, leaving off on that, Cecilin, for his part, is expected to issue a report in August outlining the case for updating federal competition rules that would give regulators more power to probe and penalize the industry. The fruits of this investigation could offer Congress one of the first major actions it can take if it aims to rein in big tech. So, like I said, I'm curious to see where this goes, and looks like we will be seeing where this goes in August.
Yep. Hopefully in the favor of us, the people. But
Yes, sir.
I think that's wishful thinking, to be honest.
Right.
All right. So one last little thing then, because that, like I said, that was a nice meaty one. Just a quick little tidbit for anybody that happens to play Rainbow Six Siege or really any BattleEye enabled game, and they play through a virtual machine. BattleEye seems to have taken a silent update and is banning players for using virtual machines.
Woo!
Not for cheating, not for actually being reported, but it's I would assume it's being reported as like a funny machine and banning it for that reason, which I personally just don't think is cool. Like, there's plenty of people that don't use popular OSs, people that run Linux, for example, that decide they would rather emulate Windows for these games or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
So what it's doing though is like people will be able to get into a game and join it, and this might be what I've seen in game, because I had this question of why is there so many people just getting banned instantly? Is they're able to get into a loading screen, but then they just crash out to the desktop and it says BattleEye has kicked them.
Yeah, you see it on average, Pedro. You see it like every single game. You'll see like 6 names pop up that'll say BattleEye servers have banned. So permanently. It literally pops up every game, and every time I see it, I'm like, there's either a lot of cheaters on here or something. I don't know what's going on, but I mean, this probably explains. It's probably been happening for quite some time, I would assume.
Problem is though, is there's still a lot of cheaters out there, so it's just like essentially sending out an up. You're fixing what wasn't broken.
Right.
So heads up to anybody out there playing on a virtual machine or any kind of funny way that you're playing Siege. I recommend setting up a Windows, or I'm pretty sure there's an Apple version of it, right?
I am not sure.
Most likely not, but I've been wrong before. I wouldn't
All
expect
right.
there to be one.
Well, either way, go as legit as you can. And with that, I am going to hand it off to Ruben.
Alrighty. Well, I got a whole slew of things to talk about. First up, people are being tricked by Cyberpunk 2077 beta scans. With Cyberpunk being still a few months away, scammers are trying to take advantage of eager prospective players, offering them a chance to play early in a non-existent beta. CD Projekt Red posted a warning via the Cyberpunk 2077 Twitter account that it wasn't sending out beta invites and reiterated that it has no plans for a beta. Their statement on Twitter states, if you recently received an email claiming to be granting you beta access to Cyberpunk 2077, it's not from us. Unfortunately, there have been more of these being sent out over the past few weeks. When we contact you via email, it will always come up from @cdprojectred.com address. I think this is pretty funny. I'm wondering, like, how much they're trying to charge, because I'm guessing that would be the way they scam. It doesn't really say in the article. However, I mean, either that or getting someone's login credentials, like by saying, oh, just send us back your login information and we'll enter a code for you, or something like that.
Yeah, or they have them do like surveys, or those info what the info farms is what it's called, where you do like surveys and you give up your email to like a bunch of those like survey things.
Yeah,
8 hours of
that to rack up
surveys you don't
points.
qualify for.
I just think it's ironic, being that the game is Cyberpunk 2077, that people are being scammed and like hacked over it, basically.
Yeah, it's so fitting. Kind of just don't want to touch it, just to let it be.
Next up, we got a small one, and that is the fact that achievements are starting to appear on the Epic Game Store, starting with Ark Survival Evolved. So basically, if you've been playing any kind of system these past few generations, like PlayStation has trophies, Xbox has achievements, and now the game launcher Epic, which has been stated to be lacking a lot of features. At least that's what everybody who hates Epic says. And now they're getting achievements, which is nice because I myself am an achievement hunter, so I really like going for achievements, especially on those days when I don't know what I want to play. What do you guys think about achievements in Epic Game Stores? Does this do anything for y'all?
Definitely get me
Not for
playing more of my Epic games.
Yeah, I mean, not for me personally. I've never really been an achievement hunter just because I'm bad at going for goals in video games. I just like to play them for fun and do whatever I want. But I know it's a very appealing thing to most people who play video games, and I'm just part of the weird group that isn't. So if it attracts more people to the platform, then it's a smart move on Epic because that's what they've been trying to do for the last year. So just pull more people to the platform, and they're smart.
I'm not gonna lie, ever since Epic has come out and they've been killing it, like, that's where I've wanted to buy all my games. I haven't really wanted to buy anything from Steam just because I'm like, Epic gives me so much free stuff, like, why not support them?
You feel indebted. They've guilted you into using their platform.
Basically, I mean, that's what it is.
Could someone be? If someone's a psychologist, could you please explain?
I'm like, man, they've given me hundreds of free games. The least I can do is buy this $10 game off their store.
Meanwhile, I'm not gonna get it until it's free.
One day.
I'll wait it out. I'm patient.
Next up, we got a positive story, and that's the fact that Riot scrapped controversial LEC partnership with Saudi Arabia following a massive fan backlash.
Yeah, and it seems like internal company backlash too.
Yeah, it seemed like everyone was giving them backlash. I don't know who thought this idea would be good. But
Neither do I, but they shouldn't listen to me anymore.
But this statement was put out by them. As a company and as a league, we know that it is important to recognize when we make mistakes and quickly work to correct them. After further reflection, while we remain steadfastly committed to all of our players and fans worldwide, including those living in Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, the LEC has ended its partnership with Neom effective immediately. In an effort to expand our esports ecosystem, we moved too quickly to cement this partnership, and it caused rifts in the very community we seek to grow. While we missed our own expectations in this instance, we are committed to re-examining our internal structures to ensure this doesn't happen again.
Oh, the person who spearheaded that project's getting fired.
That's exactly what that says to me. We're re-examining our internal structures. That means some people are definitely losing their jobs.
Oh, they gone, man. Everyone who was like pushing for it, it's like we gotta do this, and they're not gonna walk into their office tomorrow. Just saying.
We're sorry.
I mean, I wouldn't.
Even if they didn't fire me, I wouldn't come back.
But apparently this isn't the only company who is in deals with them. Apparently, also Counter-Strike is in partners with them. However, there has been no reversal from their end, and I know their community is very upset as well.
Wait, people still care about Counter-Strike?
Right? Wouldn't you assume they all moved to Valorant already?
Yeah. Very true. Very true. I would make that assumption. It'd be a safe one. But if they haven't, we just have to give them more time.
And time will tell. I'm honestly surprised they haven't taken theirs back yet, but I mean, we'll see.
It's not going to.
Alrighty, next up, we got a Star Wars Squadrons story, which is, of course, the flying space battle game set in Star Wars. Star Wars Squadrons is currently scheduled for an October release right on the eve of a new console generation, launching on PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Um, it will be on PS5 and Xbox Series X. It just won't be a next-gen version, which sounds to me like they're not planning on making those versions, that you're just going to have to buy the old one and play with backwards compatibility.
That's one way to deal with it.
I mean, it's a tad concerning, but at the same time, I don't think this was going to be a $60 game anyway. So, I don't feel deeply bothered by it, especially seeing as it will probably, it's still going to run faster thanks to the SSD and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, a new game is a new game. Whether it's re-released or it's a brand new idea. Usually old games that are remastered are treated equally, and as far as excitement for me goes. So you still see me begging for the Conker's Bad Fur Day remake, a proper one. That still hasn't happened yet, but I would receive it with the same excitement as I received a brand new IP. So
one day for sure, man. They've got to be doing something with that, I would think.
It's such a wasted opportunity if at least not one person at the meetings is like standing up and being like, "What about a new Conker game?"
There's got to be.
There's one guy.
I was gonna say there's got to be one, and he just keeps getting shot down.
Yes.
He's like,
Banjo at this point too is the same.
Yeah, Banjo, but not a nuts and bolts version. Classic.
Yeah, no,
classic
just
Banjo.
collect a bunch of shit, learn some new moves.
Nuts and Bolts was not a Banjo game. Let's all agree on that right now.
For sure. Alrighty, and my final story of the day is that we are getting Splinter Cell. However, it is not in the form of a new game.
Damn
it! It's going to be coming back as an anime series on Netflix, and it is going to be made. It's going to have a producer who is a John Wick co-creator.
So it's got to be good.
Yeah, it's going to be epic, dude. It's got to have some sick stealth, some sick shootouts. I'm super excited. I'm hoping that this is alluding more towards another Splinter Cell game, but
it's never going to happen.
It will happen. If all of their
Splinter Cell is like it's like Splinter Cell for gaming is like edging for masturbation.
Bro, it's been the past few years of remasters and reboots. There's gonna be a Splinter Cell reboot.
There fucking better be.
There's gotta be.
That's a threat. You hear me, Tom?
Or else.
There fucking better be.
I definitely don't doubt that if it's not in the works, that if this blows up, there will be a game in the works before long.
Yeah, so we gotta support it when it comes out. Basically.
Yes.
Or they'll make the completely wrong move and just do another season and say, fuck your game.
Oh, they're gonna make the game, Jason.
or they're like, wow, the show's doing so well, we don't have to make the game anymore. We're satisfied with the show.
I'd be so upset.
And I will say, I told you so.
2.5 years from now, Tom Clancy announces Splinter Cell to not have any more video games, to focus on new movie partnered with the Avengers.
To focus on ultra successful anime series. It'd be so.
We're calling it now.
Let's see here. That is all of my stories. However, I did want to mention, because I brought it up to Pedro before the podcast. I don't think you were in the call yet, Jason, but they recently, I want to say yesterday, they had a new war table for the Marvel's Avengers game, and it's actually starting to look good. I'm actually kind of excited now.
Like legit.
It seems like the way it plays, like with your loadout on heroes, obviously like you level up each hero individually so that you can unlock different things for different people. And it looks almost like Destiny style in terms of like how you manage your equipment to change your strengths or certain abilities or the way you look. So I mean, I was super doubtful because the Avengers looked like poop in the first video we saw, but I'm very hopeful now.
Just not a huge Avengers fan. I liked Endgame and
Well,
Infinity War, but
this game doesn't seem like
yeah,
something you'd want to play alone. It seems like a game you'd want to get as a party to play with other people. It's not like
uh,
it almost reminds me of Marvel's Ultimate Alliance, the top-down game, but a
mhm.
third-person version where it looks way better.
It's still a very promising game. However, the first impressions of it were not strong, so people have started with a really low bar for it. But that doesn't mean it can't exceed and do really well.
I was
So
gonna say lots of games lately have started with very low bars. No Man's Sky, Fallout 76, and they've both done complete 180s. So I'm hopeful.
fingers crossed.
All right. Well, do you guys have anything else you want to talk about?
I am all
Uh,
done, sir.
So I actually have one thing that I wanted to talk about, and that's just how bad. I mean, we thought the NALCS was bad, right? But the LEC is even crazier right now. So remember this time last year when G2 Esports were the undisputed kings of Europe?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take that into account because right now G2 Esports is tied for 5th place with 6 wins and 7 losses in the LEC.
Oh my God.
And they're tied for 5th place with Origin and XL, the teams. Currently sitting at first place is Mad Lions with 10 wins and 3 losses. In second place is Rogue at 10 wins and 3 losses, which might I remind you were the bottom tier team in the LEC for a long time.
You're a
Uh,
rogue.
and then yeah, so in third place, in third place, no surprise, it's Fnatic. They've always been a top tier team, right? They're 7-6. Fourth place is SK Gaming, also at 7-6. And then sitting at the bottom at 10th place is Schalke 04 at 3 wins and 10 losses. So
Damn.
no surprise there for Schalke being at the bottom, although they were doing pretty well, I think, a season and a half ago. As far as their standings in the LEC, but that was a season and a half ago, and this
They
is
did
today.
well long enough for me to like them, and then they just never did well again.
Yeah, exactly. So the LEC is indeed a clown fiesta right now. Not as bad as NALCS, but they're clowning around too.
Clowning.
Yeah, maybe Worlds will be interesting this year.
I personally cannot wait for this next month, August, because Xbox and PlayStation are both supposed to have another event.
Woo! Hopefully better than their past events. That's all I'm saying.
Hopefully, I'm hoping
Yeah.
we get some gameplay of Elden Ring already, man.
We're not getting jack shit from Elden Ring forever.
Bro, we have to be. We have to be.
99% sure it doesn't even exist.
Bro, it's been
It doesn't even
it's
exist.
been over a year since they announced it. They gotta give some kind of update.
Have you seen how much made up content exists for Elden Ring?
No, because I've only seen the trailer.
I mean, have you seen how much made up content is for Halo Infinite? I mean, they have to play it on a PC.
There's made up bosses. There's made up like areas, made up NPCs, made up quests.
How about they make up a gameplay trailer?
No, as in people get on Reddit and make this shit up.
Oh.
I like that kind of made up.
Classic internet. Classic internet, man.
Hey, and another little funny thing that I forgot to mention is you remember the Rockstar story about all the online players dressing up as clowns?
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
And Red Dead.
After that, Red Dead recently just got an update.
Nice.
with new content. So
the people have spoken, and the people have been listened to.
see here.
That's great. if you're done with that story, fun fact: you can buy a Pixel 4a case on Amazon and have it shipped to you 2 days before the phone's even announced. Just figured that out myself because I'm looking at Pixel 4a cases right now on Amazon.
That's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with a slim TPU case. I'm all gassed out for stories, though. That's all I have to say.
Alrighty, what about you, Jason?
I'm good to go, sir.
Alrighty, well then, go ahead and do the outro, and I'll play our song afterwards.
Woo!
We want to thank y'all for joining us for another week of the Let's Talk About It podcast. It's been fun. Don't forget to, like, share, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. Until next time, I have been Ruben.
I have been Pedro.
I've been Jason.
I was really hoping you were going to say, and I have been awake.
See
We'll go ahead and play our song. See y'all next week.
I don't know
See you
what
guys.
you're talking about.